Hello, good morning. Look, I look orange. It's the lighting in this room. God, it's so terrible. I got to do a better job at that. But heck, I'll leave that for people who know what they're doing. I just like to talk. Today, I just wanted to talk a little bit about being wrong and why it's so important to be wrong and to allow yourself to be wrong. I read a lot of comments on Yahoo and other sites where I get to engage with other people. Most of the time, I just read the comments. I look at what we call hot button topics, topics that are trending as something that is debatable. Usually, it's politics, war, race, religion, things like that. Sometimes it's sport as well. So I'll constantly look for these different topics and just kind of enjoy myself reading. I had a student in a class ask me, why do I like doing that? To them, it didn't make any sense. Why would anybody be interested in these? Just reading the comments. When I read the comments, I get to see what people are like, what people tend to think, and that's what interests me. What are people thinking? What's the state of consciousness in the United States or globally right now? One thing that I learned is that people like to get angry a lot. They like to make these really inflammatory comments, and then they like to argue with you if you contradict their comments. This has a lot to do with disequilibrium. When people make statements that are so, I don't know, they're just so sure of themselves. Well, there's nothing certain in life. There's this old saying, there's nothing certain except for death and taxes, right? So because there's such lack of certainty, when people make comments that mean they're very certain about something, there's going to be feedback that contradicts their view, especially if there's a lot of truth against what they're claiming. Like if somebody says the elections were rigged, I mean, there's plenty of evidence that shows that they weren't rigged, or that COVID doesn't exist. Well, it does exist, or that it was there's conspiracies, or that I once was in line and I heard a guy say behind me that vaccines have killed more people than COVID. Lots of babies, women, children. But I somebody who studies epidemiology, studies public health, gets to read CDC data all the time. I don't see those numbers. I don't know where these people are getting these numbers from. Probably some talk show host. The reason they listen to those talk show hosts is because those talk show hosts are so certain in what they're doing. They just make these comments as if they're fact. And especially a talk show host, it's very rare that one gets to contradict them because they can vet out the people that they don't want to deal with. Well, the problem with making statements that are so bold, when you start hearing evidence that contradicts them, there's two options. You can either adapt, change your point of view to appropriate the data of experience, the real data, or you can ignore them. So in Piagetian language, Jean Piaget, the famous Swiss psychologist, you can either assimilate or accommodate your point of view. So the assimilation means that you're not giving up your perspective, whatever your point of view is, but you're kind of assimilating the data into it. So, like for instance, if I say that vaccines killed countless people, and somebody provides data from the CDC, if somebody's assimilating that information into their worldview, the data that's from the CDC contradicts that, right? They say, well, the CDC is lying, they're hiding this. So that's a way to assimilate the information. There's a conspiracy going on, and the government is hiding the real data because they don't want you to know it, because they're in the pocket of the pharmaceuticals or something like that. That'd be a way to assimilate experiences into one's worldview, that the world is corrupt, that people are hiding information because they want us all to die. I don't know why they'd want everybody to die. I mean, because people on all sides of the political aisle, and conservative, liberal, or whatever, they all would die if the vaccines are killing everybody. So that's what assimilation is. Accommodation would be changing one's worldview to accommodate that new experience. That's a better way to go. But the change means that one has to give up on the idea that they're right. So one has to accept that they were wrong. That's a very painful thing to do. That's why many people avoid experiences that contradict their worldviews. So it's easier to isolate oneself than to expose oneself to contradictory information. The truly superior individual allows for the contradictions and changes his or her point of view. He gets feedback, allows for feedback. In today's world, feedback is everywhere. It's really easy to get feedback, but you have to want to get the feedback. Probably some people out there are athletes or exercisers who have technology that provides feedback. I'm one of them. I use feedback for my skiing. I use feedback from when I'm cycling. I also, of course, in academics, get tons of feedback because you can't submit something for publication without getting feedback. Believe me, nobody's worse at telling you you're wrong or better at telling you you're wrong than people in the academic world, and they love doing it. So you get used to this very negative feedback at times. So you have to be able to accept feedback to get better. In the athletic realm, like say cycling, I might think, wow, I'm a great cyclist. And then I go out and do a ride and compare myself to somebody else, and I'm not going to be at the top. Maybe I'll be at the bottom, or I'll be somewhere in the the bottom third, right? And I'm like, wow, I thought I was better than that. The superior person will take that information and say, okay, this is where I am. Let me see if I can improve my own performance and maybe compare myself better with others or compare more favorably with others. That's what a person should do. Or if you're a performer, if somebody gives you feedback that your performance wasn't that good, that's a good thing. So now you can fix it and make it better. Or you can actually give up some false belief that you're great and pursue something else that you're better at. There's an old equation that says self-esteem is the ratio of successes over pretensions. This was something that was proposed by William James, the widely believed to be the father of American psychology. Or I'd say parent, because I don't know if any women did any at that time. We're doing making other psychological theory at that moment. Perhaps Anna Freud, who knows? Although I think she came after, a little way after William James. But what James says was to increase your self-esteem, you can either give up your pretensions, right? Well, he said you should give up your pretensions. So, for instance, if somebody said, I'm the most attractive person, and then the data of experience tells you that you're not, lowering that pretension or getting rid of that pretension and no longer saying that I'm the most attractive person would increase my self-esteem, right? Because successes over pretension. I can have more successes. So this is a ratio, right? There's a quotient. So if you increase the denominator while the numerator doesn't increase proportionally, you're going to have a lower self-esteem. So what you really need is to get rid of that pretension or lower it, and you'll do better. Another thing one can do, though, is one can alter the way one perceives success. So going back to the cycling issue, when I cycle now, first of all, I'm cycling on this one speed bicycle, right? So I'm like kind of have a disadvantage already. But that doesn't matter because I assume those people who are the best would be just as good on a one speed as they would be on their, $3,000 bikes. My bike was about $350. It's like a Schwinn racer, right? I can change the way I perceive success. And what I have done there was I just compare myself to myself. And doing so, I can actually improve my performance. I can't necessarily beat others who are way younger than I am, or who are better cyclists than I am, or have more experience than I do, but I can certainly improve my own performance in a bit by bit fashion, right? Like, then I can actually compare myself favorably to my prior performance and actually feel success and increase my self-esteem. I do the same with skiing. I get a lot of feedback, and when I'm looking at the feedback, either feedback through an app like Carve, the app that I use, or I get the feedback through people I know watching me and videotaping me and telling me what I'm doing wrong. And people are more than willing to do that, believe me. So when that happens, I compare myself to my past performance and try to improve in those areas. Like, for instance, if it appears that my pressure on my outside ski, that's important in skiing, is too low, I can work on that, and I can gauge the feedback through using Carve to see if I can improve my pressure, or edge angles, or parallel, or C-shaped turns and stuff like that. I can get the feedback to evaluate my performance, and that's really important. To an outsider who likes to critique, they'll look at my overall performance and say, "Wow, that doesn't look good. You aren't improving that much." That's fine, but when I get feedback from the professionals, from the tools that I use to provide feedback, and I see the improvement, I know I'm improving. Yeah. So it's a matter of how we judge our improvement and how we judge our skills. That's important. Going back to where we started, people love to give negative feedback. It makes them feel good about themselves, I guess, to insult other people or to put down other people, like especially, as I mentioned, in the political realm or in the realm of hot button topics. Best thing to do is, if you make a comment and somebody provides extremely negative feedback to you, either you can engage with them or you can let it go. And I tend to do both. Sometimes I'll let it go. Other times I'll engage, but then I realize I fall into a trap of being bullied by these comments, and then I'll come back and I'll do my own bullying, right? Come right back, boom, fight with them. But then there gets to be a point where you realize nothing's going to happen because these individuals I'm engaging with will not change their perspective. And usually what I'll do then, I'll say, "Thank you for commenting with me and engaging in this. Have a great day." And you just end it because it's not worth it anymore. If people have extreme views, they're not going to change that easily. I just mentioned how hard it is for people to change. Hearing negative information that contradicts one's worldview is very, very painful. It's extremely painful. I talk about it in my new book, right? The role of self and adaptation in learning and development, Chasing Excellence. It's a Routledge book, or Taylor and Francis is the parent company. And in that book, I discuss this whole topic, why these views are so important to the person. Well, it defines who they are. And people defend their points of view as if they're defending their lives against somebody with a sword. It's that important. So you're not going to make much headway trying to confront a person when it comes to something so important to them, like their sense of self. The best thing to do at some point is to just let go and say, "Thank you, have a wonderful day." And that's generally what I do after a while. And that's what you should do too. These days are difficult. There's a lot going on, especially with the 2024 election in the United States coming up. The Olympics are going on. We have continuing issues surrounding race, gender, wars globally, and there's a lot of disagreements all the time. This is a great opportunity to practice psychoadaptation. Psychoadaptation is the model of how to adapt in the face of negative experiences, disequilibrium creating experiences. So that's my goal, and it's my job. That's my goal for you, is to help you become a better person, help myself become a better person, always help all of us become better people. I want to thank you for anybody who listened to me today, or who will be listening to me as this recording goes up. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Oh, and don't forget, please subscribe to my channel and subscribe to all your favorite YouTube channels.